Good morning. This budget hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication will now come to order. Notice of the public hearing was disseminated to all local media outlets via electronic format on June the 22nd, 2016, with a second notice provided on June the 27th. Notice of this hearing was also made known on the Guam Legislature's website. These budget hearings will be conducted to discuss the fiscal year 2017 budget proposals, a semi-autonomous and executive branch agencies and departments. All budget proposals have been distributed to all senatorial offices. Details of each budget proposal are also available online at our website, ofbguam.org. This morning we will begin with the Guam Election Commission and will reconvene at 2 o'clock this afternoon to hear the Mayor's Council of Guam. I want to preface this budget hearing, as well as all future hearings, with the fact that we have an impending 2015 cumulative fund deficit of somewhere around $120 million. Now, more than ever, we all need to understand that increasing expenditures against potential decline or flat revenue levels may not be realistic. We may all have to come to that realization either here and now or at some time in the near future. Ms. Panglini.
Hafide Chair, Mr. Chairman, Senator Uggan, Senator Tommy Morrison, and Senator Underwood. Sidzuis Maasi again for having me in front of you. The Guam Election Commission submitted its fiscal year 2017 budget request at $1,564,576 to cover its expenditures for the November 8, 2016 general election, its cancellation or purging of voters who failed to vote in 2014 and 16 general elections, the compilation of the 2016 Election Comparative Analysis Report, and preparations for the 2018 primary election beginning June 2017. As of yesterday, June 28, 2016, the deadline for the primary election, 113 candidates have filed, 35 for senator, 4 for congressional delegate, 3 for public auditor, and 71 for mayor and vice mayor. I have yet to confirm if this is a record, and I'll let you all know later on. With us today, I'm very thankful that Commissioner Christy McCormick, Election Assistance Commission, who is here to provide technical assistance on compliance with the Help America Vote Act, where Guam still has prior year funding that may be made available. Also with us are Chairperson of the Commonwealth Northern Mariana Islands Election Commission, Chairperson Francis Sablan, Director Julita Vilzagomez, and Administrative Officer Kayla Igito. CNMI has transferred 3 automarks, equipment that will allow persons with disabilities to vote independently. We're hoping to be able to set it up for ballot placement drawings, so anyone that's interested may be able to look at it and see how it works. Mr. Chairman, that's what we have. Sidzuus Maasi, because really, as I tell everybody, the Guam legislature has been in full support of the Guam Election Commission, and for that, Sidzuus Maasi.
Thank you very much, Ms. Panglini. And since they are here, let me, on behalf of the Guam legislature, thank the CNMI Election Commission for its very generous support of our Election Commission by providing the 3 automark machines to assist those with disabilities to be able to vote independently. I think as a democratic country, we have to assure that our citizens are able to vote privately and be able to be assured of what their votes are. And I know that a number of individuals with disabilities have been complaining in the past about being forced to sit in a car with somebody else and have somebody read off the ballot, mark it for them, and hopefully it's marked as they had asked and have it submitted at least now there is a machine that, as I understand it, will actually read back the ballot before the ballot is filed, so that the person is assured that their vote has and will be counted as they had marked it. And so, again, Sidus Masi for your very kind and generous contribution there. The request made, it's to take care of the upcoming general election. Your mic's not on.
That's correct, sir. And the rest of the fiscal year. The Guam election operation is we prepare all the way up until November 8, 2016. Then we do certification process, provisionals process, any ballots that come in. After certification, we begin to close the election by putting all the supplies away, making sure that the ballots are safe, hopefully transferring them down to GSA as mandated. The closing of the 2016 elections is June 30th, 2017, when we submit to you and the governor our election comparative analysis report. So this year, in preparation for the 2016 elections, the Guam Election Commission has been compiling a list of recommendations that should come with the election comparative analysis report to the legislature.
I want to commend you on it's a very slight increase in your budget request, but as I understand it, you have an increased number of precincts that you have to open up and provide for this time?
Yes, sir. We increased from 58 to 67. Mr. Chairman, most of the costs are incurred in the primary, in preparation for the primary election. Just so that we're clear, the slight increase is, of course, with the additional precinct officials for the general election. But in like ordering ballots, all the order goes in as one for both primary and general. And if you remember, our order includes one whole set just in case we have a primary. So we're ordering always for the primary, the general, and possibly a runoff. And that's what we do all the time.
With the large number of candidates that you made mention, will that affect the number of ballots we're going to be receiving, or
no,
getting longer ballots to
no.
put everybody on?
Quite a few people come to me and say the gubernatorial election must be the busiest election ever. Inside the Guam Election Commission, the busiest election ever is the mayoral, because for the gubernatorial, we prepare only one ballot type, or one set of ballots. All across the villages, it's the same. For the mayoral election, we prepare 19 different layouts. So all that, is in-house. As far as costs go, with my young guns behind me, or one young gun and the rest at the office, that's what we gear up for. And that requires, we try to get as many eyes on the ballot as we can, because it's a lot to review all the time, sir. The cost is...
Does this amount that you've asked for take into account the possibility that there might be questions, either legislative submissions, referendum initiatives, or the possibility of a publicized end, or is that going to be separately?
That would be separate, and that's about $35,000 based on historical costs.
But that's not in here?
Not included, sir.
Okay. Do any of my colleagues have questions? Please.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Director, and I am grateful for the effort that you and your staff have actually put into making the filing and everything and the training very smooth. I just have, when you had requested for the supplemental budget earlier, in which we had provided, it was to upgrade the and to pay the University of Guam or to upgrade the computer system. Were you able to accomplish that?
We're still in the process, ma'am. The university and Guam Election Commission are working much closer together. No, we're not finished yet. We've been processing some minor purchases, but the supplemental amount has not been put into our accounts yet, ma'am.
So I know that you're making those incremental efforts, and even though you don't have the funds, then the extent to which we will be prepared, would that be hampered by the fact that you have not been given the cash up front for?
Yes. Well, I'm looking at the available, as far as GEC is concerned, it's not our cash flow, but available funds to us in our system. And we're picking and choosing which ones were not delinquent with any of our payments. But at this point, as of Friday, I really wanted to order the ballots last Friday. And we're making that, and we've been asking BBMR as early as recent as this morning before I come before you. I asked them if I asked them to give me a update. The funds are not in our account. They haven't been identified as of yet. Does it hamper the election? With the continuing appropriation in 2015, I know that I can transfer some funds to order the ballots at this time. And that's what we'd have to do. I was waiting to see if, because it was in the supplemental, if we just order it once it's in the, but we're going to go ahead and do that and also pay for our on-site support at the same time.
And this is related to part of some of the bills that have actually come up, had been passed into law, but have you had an increase in the number of registered individuals who have registered, and especially our young people? Have you seen anything?
I want to tell you that right now by June 30th, we should have 47,000 registered voters at least. By June 30th. We're updating our voter registry 2 times a month. So as of June 15th, we were at 46,979, I believe. So we'll break that. Have I seen an increase? Yes. And we received quite a few requests to train volunteer community registrars. So whereas in the past we've gone 175, for this election we have over 200. If I'm not mistaken, I think we have 215 volunteer registrars. So the options are there, the opportunities are there to register.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was talking to the Consul General of the Philippines, and I'm not sure if we've been following what took place there with their elections and how they were. I didn't know this, but I guess they kind of made history on the turnaround and declaring the winner of that election in such a very short time frame. And I asked him how that take place, and he made me aware of some of the instruments or machines that they were able to invest in. And I'm sure we're dealing with a large country, but apparently they were able to the people there were able to, knowing what type of elections they had to deal with, were able to be confident in those abilities to produce the results in a time frame and record and the transparency level of those machines. Now I bring it to Guam because I know I'm glad the folks from HAVA are here and talking about the fact that technology has changed rapidly in the past 10 years. However, the machines have not kept up to speed with the growing technologies that are out there or the investments in these technologies. Is the Guam Election Commission looking at what, I know a lot of it's due to cost and what type of machines are out there that the community would trust, but is the Guam Election looking into what's available out there that could help advance our voting system and throughout our island?
Senator, thank you for the question. As of in 2015 and after July, the Guam Election Commission was able to avail ourselves with some professional development. We've started the SARA program, and that's the Certified Elections Registration and Administration program, and I was the guinea pig, and I went out and did 5 of the 12 classes in Florida. Then I sent 3 of our senior staff to Houston to do classes there and to go to the election center where they have exhibits of the latest and the greatest. And so they brought back some stuff, and that's one of the reasons we're buying a new supply bag. The other thing that is that we need to look at is the technology and the equipment are there, but our environment is different in that the Guam Election Commission does not have a permanent election return center, which means the equipment must be transported. And so that's one issue I look at. The other issue, if you remember when we were going to purchase the tabulators, the other issue, we showed you the precinct counters in 2012 that we can send out to the precincts, to the different villages, no? One of the challenges for us here on Guam is those precinct counters tabulate as people feed the ballots in, but if it jams, we have to open the ballot box. So are we ready to allow precinct officials at the different precincts to open the ballot box? Whereas for years, the only person that could open the ballot box was the executive director. And that would be up at the return center. So those we've looked at. Just yesterday, it was brought to our attention that presidential elections in Philippines are already over. Let's check the Council General of the Philippines here on Guam and see what we can do. And to also bring to your attention that our vendor, who's been our vendor for maybe 30 years already, 25 years, their plant is in the Philippines. So, it's worth checking. We'll talk to our on-site support people and take a look at that. In 2012, our on-site support consultant went from here to the Philippines because he was the techie guy for inside the machine. Wow. And Senator, one more. When we went to purchase the tabulators back in 2014, there was a bigger and greater one, a central counter, the 850s. But that one was sensitive to movement. And the path of the ballot goes around, and we know that's also sensitive to humidity.
Thank you for providing the information. I just wanted to bring it up. There was just recently I wanted to explore with the council what took place there, and importantly the trust that people had and what they were they're attempting to do with their elections with these machines. Now, even with the upcoming U.S. presidential elections, and over the past 10 years, there has been a lot of interesting technology with open source distributed ledgers that makes things very transparent with their elections commissions, and I think they're looking to attempt to implement this with the U.S. presidential election. So those are things we would like to monitor and see how, knowing even around in our region, and even in the U.S. mainland and what they're doing. We know we have these machines and they're aging, and not to say they don't work, but they're aging, and even with the efficiencies that these new applications bring with these types of technologies, that will make it key here, which is transparency. So I thank you. I look forward to working with you, and maybe sending you some information that I've been looking into as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I want to be sure I thank you at the beginning of my comments for your continued support for the Election Commission. I know this government is faced with a lot of financial challenges, to include cash shortfalls from time to time. And when the Election Commission came before this committee, you did something excellent, where you provided for their continuing appropriation, but also provided authorization for prior obligations in prior years, and that really speaks to, I believe, the legislature's commitment to wanting to provide for free and fair elections. And we've come a long way, and I'm not afraid to admit that we've come a long way since the 2006 election, where those Ivotronic machines were used, and Senator Morrison talked about the technologies that are available. When the Ivotronic machines first came out and were used throughout the United States, the problems that we saw in Guam were not isolated to Guam. It was seen throughout the country, so much so that they made a movie out of it, where a presidential candidate was elected president based on the manipulation of those machines. And so in 2006, we, as a legislature, saw some problems with the use of those machines, and so we moved in to put a moratorium on those machines, and we provided for very specific statutory guidelines on what kind of machines the Election Commission shall procure and shall use for future elections, to include an auditable paper trail, so that if there's any question and ballots have to be counted, there has to be some reference to how those votes were cast. And a big improvement also was in the reconciliation of the ballots that were used during the elections. And I'm so happy that the Election Commission is treating these ballots, and Maria said it yesterday, she said they're treating it better than currency. So that if a precinct is assigned 500 blank ballots, at the end of that precinct, when it's closed, if they use 300 ballots to vote, they should have 200 ballots, and if 100 were unused, then they should have being able to count for the 400. If the 100 ballots were spoiled or damaged, then at the end they should have a reconciliation report of 500 ballots for that particular precinct, or whatever the case may be. And so I also wanted to memorialize a meeting we had with the Vice Speaker, the Speaker, and myself, with Commissioner Christine McCormick and our friends from the CNMI. It was an excellent meeting, and it was very encouraging to hear all the assistance that you're receiving from the Federal Election Assistance Commission, and the comments that Commissioner McCormick made with respect to how Guam has progressed over the years, and that's attributed to your leadership, Maria. And I don't think none of us will ever take for granted the amount of work that you put in, that your staff puts in, that the commissioners put in. And I'm happy that the Election Commission is being very strict now with the reporting of the financial disclosures, with the reporting of campaign expenditures, with the things that you're seeing being reported versus what's actually happening in the community. And you see those discrepancies early on, and finally the Election Commission is raising concerns and issues with those particular candidates, and that you're providing a remedy and education, so it's not punitive. Maybe sometimes we just don't know, and we need to update ourselves, but ignorance is not a defense for breaking or violating any election laws or any law for that matter. But you've come a long way, and you're doing all these things. One of the things that we were not able to do since 2006 was declare Election Day holiday. Can you kind of speak to that? I know this is a budget hearing, but we want so much to make the Election Day a holiday because there was very active discussions about tapping teachers, tapping bank tellers, so that I know that we raised the stipend, and so that we are trying to encourage more people to come out and volunteer. But we're also trying to recruit the right kind of people for this daunting task of being on their feet all day, having a clear mind, and providing that kind of a very important service. Would it help your operations director if the election day were declared a holiday?
Absolutely. Come 2012 elections, 2014 elections, we bring our precinct officials into our office for training before both elections. And I'd love to see the same group from the primary build up on what they've learned and bring them to the general, a very important election as well. Unfortunately, because it's not a holiday, I lose.
Because primary is Saturday. Just
That's
so people
correct. Because
understand,
primary is Saturday.
and general is Tuesday.
That's right. So I lose them. And even with, and one of the things we've done, and I want to report to you, this is an aside, that this is the first time the Guam election, in cooperation with DOE, the University of Guam, and GCC, this is the first time they've been able to meet the mandate where there's a registrar in every public high school, in every school at the university, and at GCC. When GEC went out to do the training, of course, one of the things we did was encourage those we were training to come out to be precinct officials at the schools if that's their voting district. So, on their own initiative, one of the principals became a point of contact, and I think we haven't gone through we've put together the list, but we haven't compiled them yet. I think we were successful this year to increase the number of precinct officials coming from DOE. With that said, we would have better elections if we can build up on the skills they've learned in the primary to come to the general. And one of the most important for me is bringing these same precinct officials. The start of the training for the general election is what were the problems what did you learn? What were the best things and what were the worst things? That's the beginning of the discussion. We try to train our precinct officials all together inside we schedule it by village. And so they would sit around, and some of them are only in the cafeteria so they can help each other. Some of them are in the classroom, so when they're stuck, they have to call us. They can't ask for assistance or, just network and get some assistance right then and there from the next precinct. So yes, making it a holiday for us, what it will impact are the precinct officials, how good we have them there.
Can you refresh my memory when it's not a holiday? I know there's logistical issues with buses, with the transporting of the ballots. There's also what happens to those schools that are used for a precinct. I think those students don't have school for that day.
They
right?
don't have school, but we may have issues with parking as the teachers and the staff
Still
are there,
report to work.
still report. So parking is moved where it was available for the primary election. In almost all cases, it's not now available for the general election. And that's what happens. As I visit with CNMI and Commissioner Christie, one of the things I've learned is how precinct officials are compensated and what type of precinct officials become available. If you look at the websites across the states, if they have training videos for precinct officials, most of them are all retired. So for us, it's carrying those ballot boxes. We need young ones too to come and help us carry the ballot boxes and the supply boxes up to the election return center. So as far as pay goes, I think we're rating the highest.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
I know usually the budget, the executive budget comes over at the same time that the governor gives his State of the Island address. Unfortunately, they were separated this year. And it was after he had submitted the budget that we received the State of the Island address, and where he announced his intention to have the plebiscite. Since that time, has he made known, I know he came and filed with you. Have you seen any request or to your office to increase your budget to account for the possibility of a plebiscite this year?
Not to our office, no. There has not been any communication on that matter. What has happened as far as the plebiscite goes is that they've asked us to help them through training decolonization registrars in the month of May. The month of May was declared Guam Decolonization Registry Month, and because of the governor and the administration's effort, for the first time, our decolonization grew by over 1,000. And so that was we need to say we appreciate the directors and agency heads of the government of Guam. They themselves took it upon themselves to register as well. So as far as when the plebiscite is going, one of the things, we attend the Commission on Decolonization meetings, and so one of the things is the education part of the, educating on the three options. That what we're hearing is may start this month.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add, following the governor's pronouncement of plebiscite vote in the 2016 election, the Commission on Decolonization held a meeting, and a motion was made that the governor go ahead and do the education campaign consistent with the approval of the Commission on Decolonization, and that we were to reconvene sometime in July to determine if a plebiscite is possible for the general election 2016. And the governor also agreed to pull back his efforts to try to pursue the plebiscite option, understanding that this vote is very important, and the process by which we achieve self-determination is extremely sensitive and critical, that we do it in that manner, other than just giving everybody a ballot and having them self-declare that they're a native inhabitant. So that's the update.
Anything else? That was painless.
Caesar's mercy. Thank you.
Thank the fact that you brought visitors with you to protect you. Thank you very much. This budget hearing is now in recess until 2 o'clock this afternoon, when we meet with the Mayor's Council of Guam.